Yazukai Karasozman. My Greek isn't amazing, but I know just enough to introduce this review. Hey everybody, my name's Harrison, or Pergo1 with Level 1 Gaming, and thank you Dark Point Games for the code. Today we're looking at Achilles Legends Untold. Achilles Legends Untold is an action RPG that previously released on Steam in Early Access, and it's now available on the Switch by the grace of the Greek Pantheon. At first glance, Achilles might look like a Diablo, but it's got more up its sleeve than that. Part Soulslike, part Diablo, Achilles manages to overcome some issues, that proverbial arrow to the heel, and at the end of the day, it's an acceptable dungeon crawler for the Switch. I really want to get this off my chest from the start. Most of my gripes with this game come from the fact it's on the Switch. Don't get me wrong, it's not the game's fault, it's one of those weird, it's not you, it's me stories. But hey, complaining about performance or graphics on the Switch is like complaining you can't beat Usain Bolt in a 100-meter race. It's just not really worth the time, so let's move on. Things start fairly predictably. You set off to fight some Trojans before breakfast. Typical day in the life of Achilles. Achilles is a warrior skilled with every weapon able to perform special moves. His only downfall here, he's not played by Brad Pitt in this game.
That's insane.
For starters, you meet Hector, you throw hands and spears, then you suddenly wake up in a strange world. The underworld. It's at this point I noticed something was up. Jokes aside, I encountered a glitch right after this moment, and it honestly completely ruined my immersion for the first 30 minutes or hour of this game. After I defeated Hector, my screen went black for a good 30 seconds, and I was treated to a cutscene where Achilles was reminiscing about dying and falling to the underworld and how he was defeated. And I was like, I wasn't defeated. What happened? Did I miss something? So I assumed there was some cutscene that was supposed to show Achilles being killed after I defeated Hector. Unfortunately, I missed out. Plus, I bet Hector cheated anyways. Funnily enough, that glitch is probably the most exciting thing that happens in the story. The story is pretty forgettable, it's filled with poorly acted characters, and serves up a plot that will leave your head the moment you put the game down. It's really truly just a story of Achilles fighting his way out of the underworld. Bosses, loot, skills, parry, dodge rolls. You know what I'm talking about if you've played any Souls-like game or dungeon crawler. The gameplay in Achilles will feel very similar for you in this regard. None of these elements in Achilles are standouts, however none of them are poorly implemented either. There are multiple weapon types featuring different animations and special moves. A sprint attack with a sword gives you the fantastic jump stab from the Troy movie, for example. Meanwhile, a broadsword will give you a wide slash. Swords, broadswords, shields, and axes. They are all worthy contenders to be your instrument of destruction and death. With new weapons comes responsibility, and effects such as poison or fire. Status effects never seemed to make a huge difference in my playthrough, but it was always nice to see the numbers tick due to a status effect on an enemy. Spreading off the beaten path here provides cellars or dungeons similar to Diablo. Although here, it is odd you're not always guaranteed a reward. There were times I would clear a cellar and not be rewarded with anything, and that would be my first time clearing it. Along with that, adventuring off the beaten path sometimes hardly feels worth it. You're usually rewarded with more of what you have, or with a weapon that's less useful than the one you're wielding because you've upgraded what you're currently holding. Along the way through your adventure, you will find different ways to upgrade your weapons or armor. And when you defeat enemies, sometimes you'll get different crafting parts or potions, but I was playing on the medium difficulty as I usually do in most games, and I was already so overflowing with money and potions that there was hardly a time that I would choose to rest because I already had so many potions. And upgrading weapons was constantly really easy for me to do as well. So finding a new weapon that, was 12 levels below what I had in terms of upgrades, usually didn't make me want to upgrade it. A strong point of Achilles here is the varied enemy types, and how often you fight different enemy groups or types within a few minutes. For example, you might have two bandits, but then get swarmed by some skeletons who then aggro some wolves nearby, then who aggro some trolls that come your way, and you're staying there asking yourself, where did you all come from? Each of these enemies requires different strategy to defeat, and don't let you just idly hack and slash your way to victory. These decisions are small, but looking back, they do make up a good chunk of what makes this game fun. The decisions you make regarding gear, adding another element of needed strategy to the combat. Broadswords can hit multiple enemies at once in a wide arc. Spears let you take pot shots from behind a shield, and swords, well, they're swords. If you're someone who's proficient at these types of games in the genre, I highly recommend cranking up that difficulty. I'm by no means amazing at these games, but I only died twice during my entire playthrough on medium difficulty, and one of those times was during a challenge level. On top of the other mechanics, Achilles offers a leveling system. Your eyes will be treated to a feast of skill nodes the first time you open the skill tree. Like the skill tree from Skyrim, Skills are represented in astrology charts. But unlike Skyrim, this skill tree is rather disappointing. You quickly realize that 95% of the nodes are simple +1 to insert stat here, like endurance, luck, or strength for upgrading your health. There are a few actual skills hidden in the tree, like being able to parry, but I mostly found myself unengaged with the leveling system, as I was never truly excited by the prospect of leveling up, which in a title like this is a shame. Besides that, Achilles is able to unlock quite a few combat skills along the journey, such as being able to place a healing aura on the ground or being able to do a Spartan kick. You know the one. Personally, I only found the healing aura useful. The kick would send folks way too far and they would simply get up and be ready to fight by the time I reached them. But a big positive for Achilles is that no two enemy encounters are the same. You spam the same button over and over again to deal with multiple hordes of enemies in a game like Diablo, but that's never quite a viable strategy or option in Achilles. Every combat encounter is like a From Software game and requires strategy, thought, and precise timing. Achilles, though, ain't no looker for a Switch game. Textures regularly look unfinished or fail to load in. And docked or undocked, Achilles is one of the ugliest looking games I've played recently. Colors look washed out, characters are blocky, and the game is often overly dark at some points. Like when you look at your armor or enemies' armors, it's just kind of like a black spot where their chest armor would be. Frame rate is also mildly unstable, especially if you're sprinting through areas. However, I never had a frame dip during important fights where it impacted my game. But again, like I said at the beginning, graphical and performance issues are very common on the Switch, and these aren't things that I would particularly hold against the game, but it is important to know that you're not playing a good-looking game even for the Switch. Overall, Achilles Legends Untold is a game that perfectly runs the middle of the road, or the sword. Not every game needs to be a genre-defining standout. I personally miss the days of PS3 or Xbox 360 where we saw a ton of amazing 7 out of 10 or 7.5 out of 10 games. It's important to remember that video games are there to provide escape and entertain us, and at the end of the day, Achilles does just that. There's nothing amazing about it, but there's also nothing bad. And if you're looking for a solid Souls-like cross with the top-down style of Diablo, this is your game. And if I was a pretentious reviewer, the headline would be something like, Achilles Legends Untold isn't the arrow to the heel that'll bring Achilles down. Achilles is also only $24.99 on the Switch, so definitely get your money's worth out of it. And that'll wrap up this review. Again, I'm Pergal1 with Level 1 Gaming. Thank you again to Dark Point Games for the review. And again, if you're looking for a solid handheld on the go Souls-like mixed with top-down Diablo, highly recommend you check out this game. Thanks, see you next time.
And to punish the bold Trojans. And among them, Achilles, a fearless warrior whose mere presence filled hearts with courage.